8K cinematic reviews. Overkill or not, this is something I've been enjoying doing lately when it comes to my high-end smartphone reviews. And with the cameras and lenses I get access to, this is not stopping anytime soon. But there is more to getting that cinematic look and vibe than just using capable 8K cameras. It's all down to that dark art that is known as lighting. And these lights made my Fold 7 review look like a movie. Yes people, Ben from Lover of Tech, and welcome to my behind the scenes breakdown of how I lit my Z Fold 7 8K review to look like a movie. And it's all down to these lights from Nanlite, which are the Pavoslim 240C, the 60C and the 60CL. Now, if you came here new to the channel from the Z Fold 7 review, then this is going to be a treat, as most of you really enjoy the presentation, the style and the vibe of the video. But if this is your first time here and you want to have a bit more appreciation for this breakdown and behind the scenes, then I highly recommend you watch my Z Fold 7 review, which was all shot, produced and mastered in cinema-wide 8K. And of course, with a capable and compatible device, browser and internet bandwidth, the option to watch and view all in 8K 4320p is available and definitely makes a difference to that visual experience. And yeah, if you don't want to take my word for it, then have a look at this fun comment saying he spent 5 minutes switching between 4K and 8K, noticing that my beard was actually less noisy and less compressed in 8K. So hey, look, go watch it if you haven't yet, and then come back and enjoy this breakdown BTS. Of course, if you haven't yet subscribed, then be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The road to 100K subscribers is still on the table for 2025. And with your support and engagement, we can make it happen. With that out of the way, let's get into it. As stated, this is a lighting breakdown focused on the Nanlite Pavoslim 240C, 60C and 60CL flat panel LED color RGB lights. This won't be a full technical breakdown review of these lights, and honestly, if that's what you're looking for, there are much better channels dedicated to these type of reviews. I really want to focus on the benefits of using these lights, from the quality and usability in relations to my production workflow when using them on my YouTube videos, and in specific, my 8K review of the Z Fold 7. A massive thank you to the kind folks at Nanlite UK and ProLight for supplying these lights. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to actually make this review look as good as it did. Now, this BTS is going to be broken up into 5 main sections of the review and how I shot it. Now, the first one is what you're seeing here, which is the piece to camera. The second part is going to be the indoor handheld shots of me holding and using a Fold 7. The third part is the top-down bird's eye view shots. Fourth part is the indoor static shots of the Fold 7, and the fifth and the final part, the piece de resistance, my favorite and the most daring part of them all, the outdoor nighttime shots of me using a Fold 7. Buckle up, because this is going to be a fun one. Let's start with the piece to camera setup. This is the main narrative setup for the video, and I was actually using 2 8K full frame cameras, with the main camera being the Canon R5C with a 50mm f1.2 lens, and the second one being a Nikon Z8 with another 50mm f1.2 lens. The main and only key light used here was the Nanlite 240C, and in comparison to what I usually use, which is a COB cob light from Newer, specifically their FS230 watt light with a 65cm softbox, the quality and the control you get here with the Nanlite 240C is just in a different league ahead. And the most important part why I love the Nanlite Pavoslim series is the use of LEDs, the full RGB color option, and most importantly for me, the slim profile, which gives so much more headroom to play with when it comes to positioning and using the light. Now, if you look at the ceiling height I'm working with, when comparing both lights raised to their max height before touching the ceiling, the newer COB light with the softbox measures around 61 centimeters, while compared to the Nanlite 240C, which measures at around 28 centimeters. That is a huge difference, and considering I'm exactly 6 foot in standing height, and with my arms stretched out, I can touch the ceiling, I really don't have much headroom to work with when it comes to shooting my videos, and it really limits the type of creativity when it comes to the angles and the shots I want to achieve, which more times than I like, really limits how far I want to push my shots and creativity. For example, for this piece to camera, if I actually wanted to stand up instead of sitting down, there is no way using a COB light would be enjoyable compared to the Nanlite 240C, which would give me way more flexibility to shape and light the way I want. Now, in this case, I'm sitting down, I have all the headroom I want, the Z Fold 7 is next to me keeping me company, and although the COB cob light works fine, since I prefer using a boom shotgun mic, specifically the Sennheiser MKE 600, having that extra headroom to position the mic out of frame without the light actually hitting the ceiling is so beneficial when using the Nanlite 240C. Now, I prefer a much more even light approach to myself when on camera. Now, to make sure I'm well exposed, my main camera is obviously the Canon R5C. I shoot in a wide DR picture profile, which has the base ISO of 400 for the best dynamic range. I set my false color tool exposure, which is built in camera to expose to the skin around 18% middle gray, using the Nanlite app to control the 240C, which honestly works so well. And then I'm good to go. If you want to actually see how false color in camera is useful for exposure, then check out Pro AV's YouTube video on how to expose using false color quickly. In fact, Pro AV is actually where I got all access to my high-end 8K production gear, and that's how I'm able to actually shoot this review. And yeah, they've been my main video and production gear supplier and retailer for like a good 7 years plus now. And it's also my place of work. So yeah, I will have all the links in the description below for all the products mentioned in this video. It will link you to Pro AV's website. I will get a small kickback if you actually find it useful. So yeah, much appreciated, as it does help. Now look, as simple as this breakdown is, the difference in profile depth, quality of light, app control, and the overall build quality of the 240C really made it a perfect lighting companion for this piece to camera. And then in post, I pretty much just add my color grade for that flavor, look, and vibe. And yeah, that was it. The second part is another favorite of mine, which is the indoor handheld shots of using a Fold 7. And this part is the most important reason why the Nanlite 240C was a must, and basically the only option and way I was going to actually achieve the look and the shots that I wanted. Remember I mentioned the ceiling profile measurement between using both the cob light versus the 240C? Well, this is where it comes into play. Here, take a look at both of these lights next to each other at their max ceiling height with me standing underneath them, and need I say more? Not at all, because I have so much more headroom and clearance when it comes to using the Nanlite 240C compared to the cob light and the softbox. And there I say there would have been no other way for me to get this shot with the cob light and the softbox unless I had a higher ceiling height, which in this case I don't, or crouch down and look really silly and also hurt my back. The canvas size for the Pavoslim 240C worked like a charm, and all I did was line up the Canon R5C with the 50mm f1.2 and then shoot between 8K 24fps and also a crazy 8K 60fps in RAW, which then actually allows me to slow down the footage by 40% in post, which just looks incredible. Now, for this particular shot, both the 60C and the 60CL would work great, and especially since I'm using a 50mm f1.2 lens on a full frame camera, I didn't actually need that much of a crazy light output from the 240C. So yeah, the 60C and the 60CL would still give me that desired look and feel that I want. Now, since they are smaller lights, they require less weight and also easier to move around and also work great with the Nanlite app. The third part is the top-down bird's eye view shot. This is another shot type that is the bread and butter to my shot list, and it's just one I can't get away from when it comes to things like unboxings and more. How I set this one up again is using a Canon R5C in cinema wide 8K, or in most cases my dual C-stand setup with a quick release plate camera rig system in the middle, raised above head height, and then I use my white FlexiSpot motorized standing desk to raise it to hip height, and then for monitoring I use my LG C1 48-inch OLED TV on a rolling TV stand with locking wheels, which is height adjustable as well. Now, the COB light with the softbox works fine enough, and it's something I've been getting by with. But again, this is where the bigger depth and profile still limits me in how I actually want to shoot, specifically down to how it limits the max height of my TV for monitoring. Now, to make sure there's minimal strain on my back and neck when monitoring and shooting these top-down shots, having a standing desk is a must to make sure that my back is not being strained, and the TV, for me being right in front, is actually at straight eye level, which would reduce neck strain. Now, the problem I have with the COB and the softbox is that even at its maximum height before touching the ceiling, it does limit the ideal height I want for the TV to be completely straight when it comes to eye level for me to work with smoothly with minimal to no strain. This is where using the Nanlite Pavoslim 240C just makes all the difference, because that extra headroom due to the smaller depth and profile allows me to still shape and position the light the way I want to actually get the desired look I'm looking for, while still allowing me to position the TV to the height I want to best have the experience of me monitoring it. Again, you can use the 60C and the 60CL for this shot, but I stand by it. Using the 240C is just much better because the look, the spread, the coverage, power, quality of light just makes all the difference. The fourth part is the indoor static product shots. This legit comes directly after getting the top-down shots, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this is the part where using the Nanlite Pavoslim 240C and or the 60C and the 60CL really allows me to work fast and not change much to my setup. Why do I say this? Well, I'm not always recording and shooting at the most sociable hours, and again, this just comes with the time and the physical space I have between my day job and trying to make sure I have all the relevant videos out to you as my audience on time at the highest quality. Now, what that basically means is with my top-down rig left the way it is, when using the 240C, I'm able to adjust above the table directly with the Fold 7 in position for shooting. And because the depth and the profile is so much less on the 240C compared to the COB light with the softbox, that's all I need to do alongside adjusting the table height for me to start getting my product shots. Yes, I can completely take down my top-down rig and or adjust it higher to make it easier to use the COB with the softbox, but time and ease of use is everything in these situations, and the off chance I still need to get some top-down shots and move in between getting product shots, using the 240C makes life so much easier. The final and fifth part, my favorite and the most daring of them all, the piece de resistance, the outdoor nighttime shots. Now, I have to make a massive disclaimer saying, do not by any means do what I'm doing, especially if you are by yourself. I highly recommend, if you're gonna do these type of shots, have additional help for safety and workflow reasons. But if you're crazy like me and decide to do this solo, then make sure that you are well rested as much as possible in your clearest mind, because there's so many moving parts here. And when doing it at nighttime, everything just feels so much more amplified and elevated. That being said, I did mention that the Pavoslim 240C has the ability to run off battery with V-lock plates. What I also like about the 240C is that you only need one V-mount battery for it to work, and depending on the capacity of the battery with the amps and voltage rating to actually account for, it will limit the maximum brightness level you can use. I like this because some lights force you to actually use two batteries at the same time for it to work without mains power, so I appreciate the flexibility here. Now, although I did use the 240C for this crazy outdoor setup and shot, even I have to put my hands up and say that it's kind of completely overkill for this case, where using the 60C and the 60CL make way more sense compared to the 240C. And here is why. Now, outdoors, I had my C-stand with locking wheels and 3 sandbags to make sure that the 240C light fixture was secure and not tipping over. And this is something that actually you have to make sure you do to make sure there's no issues. Again, I was using a trusty Canon R5C with the 50mm f1.2 in the wide DR picture profile and a base ISO 400 for the best dynamic range. Now, the battery I used to power the Pavoslim 240C was the Switch CMO 290S, which is a massive 290 watt-hour battery capacity with a 20.1 amp rating and 14.4 volts, which allows you to power the light to a maximum 50% brightness limit with just one battery. But guess what? Once everything was set up, all I needed was a light power rating of just 1%. Yes, just 1%. And even still, I still had to put an ND filter to get the desired exposure and look I wanted. That already told me that the 240C was just complete overkill for this situation, and the 60C and the 60CL would have been more than enough due to the fact that they are much lighter, easier to carry around and set up with less weight. They power off V-mount batteries as well, but also lighter MPF batteries for even less weight and easier to actually supply enough power to give me that desired look that I wanted. So yeah, definitely in a situation like this, the 60C and the 60CL would have been more than enough. That being said, when your creative flow is on a high, like I was in this situation, there is no risk without reward. And as scary and as daring as it was to actually get these nighttime shots from sitting on the bench with my favorite handheld shots where I'm actually getting the bokeh effects with the lights in the background from a distance behind me, wow. These looked incredible, and honestly, my favorite shots in my 8K review of the Z Fold 7, and just adds that different vibe and feel that you won't really see in a smartphone review. So the cat's out of the bag, and this is how I was able to achieve that filmic and cinematic movie look to my 8K Z Fold 7 review. And it's all thanks to the Nanlite Pavoslim 240C, 60C and 60CL, the packaging, build quality, app control, light performance with full color RGB support, and the trust from a brand like Nanlite honestly makes all the difference, steps up my visual quality with lighting, and just makes my life so much easier when making these reviews. If you are interested in more of these type of BTS videos in relations to the products that I actually use to shoot my 8K reviews, when they actually make sense to do them, then let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, watch it all the way to the end, put a heart hand emoji so I know that you've watched all the way to the end, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button and notifications so you don't miss any future videos on the Lover of Tech channel. Also, check the links in the description below for all the products mentioned if you're interested in getting them for yourself. And again, massive thank you to the kind folks at Nanlite UK and ProLite, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.